Hey class, in 16.4 we are going to continue with analyzing data. More specifically today we're going to be analyzing data using the 5-number summary. If we take a look at the top of page 1110 in problem number 1, we're going to start off with halving and quartering. It says, recall that Sharp Middle School is applying for a grant that will be used to add fitness equipment to the gym, and that the principal gave a survey to 15 anonymous students. The results again from the 15 anonymous students are shown for you here. Take a look. It says that a dot plot of the sample of 15 students and the number of minutes they exercise each day is shown. So if you take a look at the dot plot, go ahead and discuss and answer number 1 with your group members. It says describe the measure of variation of the data. When you think about the measure of variation, what you want to really ask yourself is how is the data spread out? So hopefully that'll help you answer this question. A couple of the things that may have stood out to you, the data goes from 0 minutes to 300 minutes. Another thing that hopefully you can see is that most of the data is 100 minutes or less. At the bottom of page 1110 it says, previously you examined the mean absolute deviation as a measure of variability to describe the spread of data values. In this lesson you will examine other measures of variability. Another measure of variation is the range. The range is the difference between the maximum and minimum values of a data set. So go ahead and answer number 2 with your group members. Calculate the range for the exercise data. In looking at the answer for number 2, the maximum value is 300 minutes and the minimum value would be 0 minutes. So therefore the range is 300 minutes if you would take 300 minus 0. Let's take a look then at the top of page 1111. It says another set of values that helps to describe variability in a data set is a quartile. When data in a set is arranged in order, quartiles are the numbers that split the data into quarters or fourths. So take a look at number 3, 4, and 5 with your group members and go ahead and answer those. In looking at your answers to number 3, 4, and 5, number 3 asked, how do you think you can calculate the quartiles for a set of data? In order to do that, you want to first determine what the median is to separate the data into halves. Then you can determine the median of each half to divide each half of the data into halves again. For number 4, it asks you then to determine the median for the exercise data set. The median would be 40. You can see that I have all of the numbers in the data set written out in numerical order. And finally for number 5, it says what percent of students spend less than the median number and more than the median number exercising. That would be about 50% that spend less than 40 minutes and 50% that spend more than 40 minutes exercising. Let's take a look at the rest of page 1111, number 6, A through D. It says the exercise data for Sharp Middle School is shown in ascending order. That was the list of numbers that I wrote up for you in number 4. Go ahead and answer letter A through letter D then to finish off page 1111. For letter A, you should have obviously circled 40 then, because that's what we came up with in our answer for number 4. For letter B, the middle number for the students who spend less minutes exercising than the median is 20. For letter C, the middle number for the students who spend more minutes exercising than the median is 60. And for letter D, you can hopefully see now that the data is divided into 4 parts. If we turn to page 1112, up at the top it says, recall the numbers that divide a data set into 4 equal parts are called quartiles. Quartiles are often denoted by the letter Q followed by a number that indicates which fourth it represents. Since the median is the second quartile, it could be denoted Q2. The other quartiles are Q1 and Q3. So go ahead with your group members to get started on page 11-12 and answer number 7 and number 8. And taking a look at your answers for number 7 and 8, number 7 asked how many quartiles does it take to divide the data into fourths. It takes 3 quartiles in order to do that. And for number 8, it says name the value of each quartile for the Sharp Middle School exercise data. Q1 would be 20 minutes. Q2 would be 40 minutes. And remember, Q2 is also going to be your median for the data set. And for letter C, Q3 is 60 minutes. Let's finish up the bottom of page 11-12 by answering questions 9, 10, and 11. Take a couple of minutes to do that. In answering questions 9 through 11, number 9 asked what percent of the data is below Q1 and above Q1. 25% of the data is below and 75% of the data is above. In number 10, what percent of the data is below and above Q3 then? 75% of the data is below Q3 and 25% of the data is above Q3. And finally, for number 11, what percent of the data is between Q1 and Q3? That would be 50%. All right, now it's your turn. If you take a look up at the top of page 11-13, after going through the beginning part of the lesson, now it is your opportunity to determine the quartiles for each set of data. It does tell you to explain the process that you used to calculate your solutions, so please make sure that you do that thoroughly. And then finally, it says explain what the quartiles tell you about the data when you are done. Let's first take a look at letter A at the top of page 11-13. First, what you want to do is put the numbers in ascending order, and that is going to, of course, help you find the median. The median of the data is set halfway between 20 and 24, which would be 22. Remember, this is an even set of numbers, so you're going to end up with 2 middle numbers. You have to add up 20 and 24, divide by 2, and that's why you get 22 for your median. Q1 is the median of the lower half of the data, which is going to end up being 18, and Q3 is the median of the upper half of the data, which is going to end up being 30. As far as your explanations go, it says if you take a look at what you came up with, the quartiles tell you that for Q1, 25% of the data is below 18 and 75% of the data is above 18. For the median, which is represented by Q2, that's going to tell you that 50% of the data is below 22 and 50% of the data is above 22. Finally, for Q3, that's going to tell you that 75% of the data is below 30 and 25% of the data is above 30. A lot of the same as far as explanations go for what you did up in letter A. Again, first you want to put the numbers in ascending order. The median of the data is going to be between 240 and 250, which would be 245. Q1 is the median of the lower half of the data. In this case, it would be 190. Q3 is the median of the upper half of the data, which ends up being 270. Again, your explanations for Q1, that would tell you that 25% of the data is below 190, 75% of the data is above 190. The median, or Q2, tells me that 50% of the data is above and below 245. And finally, Q3 tells me that 75% of the data is below 270 and 25% of the data is above 270. If you take a look at the top of the next page, 11-14, it talks about another measure of variation that we can calculate once the quartiles of a data set are determined. The interquartile range, abbreviated IQR, is the difference between the third quartile, which we can name Q3, and the first quartile, which we can name Q1. The IQR indicates the range of the middle 50% of the data. So if you really just think about it, it's Q3 minus Q1 in order to find the IQR. Go ahead and answer questions 13 and 14 with your group members at the bottom of page 1114. In looking at your answers to number 13 and 14, it asks first, what do you think is meant by the middle 50%? When you look at the middle 50%, that means that you're looking at the data between Q1 and Q3. It is going to exclude any of the data that is in the lowest 25% and any of the data that is in the highest 25%. For number 14, it says, do you think it is possible for two sets of data to have the same range but different IQRs? And then explain your reasoning. The answer to that would be yes. Two data sets can have the same range and different IQRs because the range of a data set is based on minimum and maximum values, and the IQR is based on quartile 1 and quartile 3. If you have two data sets, they could have the same maximum and minimum values, but still have different quartiles. So to summarize everything that we talked about in problem number 1 at the bottom of page 1114, it says to summarize and describe the spread of the data values, you can use the 5-number summary. The 5-number summary includes the following 5 values from a data set. So first you're going to find the minimum, which is the least value in the data set. You're going to find Q1, which represents the first quartile, the median, which is the middle of the data set, also represented as quartile 2, Q2. Q3 is the third quartile, and then the maximum, which is the greatest value in a data set. So what I would like you to do for homework then tonight is to do problem 2 beginning on page 1115. I would like you to answer all of the questions in problem 2 that run all the way to page 1117. So problem 2 is numbers 1 through 8. Finish that up. Please let me know if you have any questions about the 5-number summary. Thanks.